Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bonner Foundation webinar series on summer service. My name is Arthur Tarty, and I'll be your host for today. Um, really, first, want to thank you all for joining me during this webinar. Where, if you're watching currently, or if you decide to watch the recording, just want to know this will be placed on our Bonner Learning community. Just going to go over some house rule. If you are live during this recording, I recommend that you mute your microphone at the bottom of um, the Zoom. And if you have any question or you want to give your input, you can just text the chat box and I'll be able to respond live to you. Thank you. Okay. So our agenda for today, I will go over the following: just managing how staff can better manage Bonner student summer experience. And then I will go over some challenges as during the various stages of internship, followed by some recommendation that Bonner staff member can use to combat those challenges too. And then I will discuss how various ways that you can capture your Bonner summer experience with some more details and how students can submit data and how you can keep those data, as well as to already grasp the full wave of student internship experience. And then if you have some questions at the end, if you're just joining us, if you're joining us later, you can be able to ask questions too. So to start off, Summer Service Essentials. So we all know that in the field of higher ed and field of community engagement work, unpaid internships are common to offer to college students, not just in the US too, but across the globe. And issue of compensation has been very, I won't say unethical, but very unfair, given that students tend to be like an employer when they're doing their internship or their summer service placement, and they're not compensated. Compensation may be organization paying for housing or paying for transportation for for Bonners to get from wherever they're staying at to their summer service placement. And then another important essentials is the supervisor at the placement site, that behavior and role that play while the students is at their organization too. And then talk about duration of internships. So basically, we suggest that students have at least 7 weeks at their placement, roughly about 280 hours, so that they can become deeply engaged and make their summer service placement worthwhile too. And students want to have autonomy, right? So autonomy in the sense of students satisfaction in what they're doing. They want to take ownership of it too. So wherever summer placements or wherever organization that they're at during the summer, they should be empowered with freedom to design and perform tasks so that they can have a positive experience at their internship. And then within that summer placement too, we want to have clarity of the tasks and activities that they're being assigned or they have responsibility on. And students love feedbacks too. So providing feedbacks, providing way for them to be able to reflect upon that internship experience too. Those are some summer service essentials that everybody staff should consider as students, as you help students or you support students during that summer service placement. So within that too, there are some top 10 concerns that a lot of Bonner interns or college students have in general. So students want some real work. So real work as in students being able to communicate with that placement organization environment and staff member that it need to be utilized well during their internship. So they don't want to just be sitting at a desk, filling out, um, closing envelopes, or doing errand work that would not be beneficial to the organization itself in moving the organization forward. They would not have real hands-on experience of working at an organization that they can take back to their classroom or to future employers too. And managers, supervisors do what to say and say what to do. So students, bonders expect the manager or supervisor at the placement sites to be honest with them regarding what they should expect during the internship, as well as once they're at the internship space or environment, what needs to be done and how the organization and employees at the organization go about doing that too. So if an organization tell interns they will be researching a project and then they spend 90% of their time doing grunt work, then bad feelings may develop within their internship experience too. And excuse me, students also want mentors. So be it someone they directly work with at the placement site or someone in an executive position or just a seasoned professional within that service placement, they would like someone to mentor them too. And then as well as manager or supervisors being available to them, not 24, not during the 8 hours time that they spend at the service site, but being available as saying that they can always reach out to them to have meetings, to get some concerns, to get if they have concerns or if they have feedback, making sure that supervisors have some type of availability, at least one-on-one meetings. Maybe during the 7 weeks that they're there, they can have at least three one-on-one meetings, or maybe a 30-minute or hour meeting every week, just so that students, so that bonders can feel value while they're at the site. And they need to work in an adequate working environment. So just because bonders are coming in as intern, they don't want to be put in a closet away from the rest of the employees just to do the work while they're there and go home too. They want to feel included. They want to feel like they're part of the team too while they're there, because basically they're working as a full-time employee, coming in 8 hours a week, spending about 7 weeks at the organization. So they want to be treated as such too. And as I said earlier, they would like to be compensated, not being that they would like a lot of money, but we all know that bonded students come from low income background too. So helping them out with whether it be housing or just transportation too, they would like to be compensated while they're while they're doing that summer service placement too. Okay. And a good rule of thumb for a good supervisor should have a flexible schedule of availability. Like I was saying earlier, students will love feedbacks from their supervisors or the manager or whoever is overseeing them during that summer service or placement too. So they want to make sure that they can interact with that person. So providing feedback and constructive criticism, most students are very receptive to that, and they yearn for that too. And encourage students to ask questions, whether it be during the meeting or during their orientation, midway through their summer service placement. Just continue to encourage them to ask questions. Supervisors should continue to encourage them to ask questions too. And you as well as staff members, whenever you're reaching out to a student, whether it be you're doing a check-in with them, just encourage them to ask questions about the internship process and whether they're doing something positive or whether they're doing something negative. The more questions they ask, the more constructive feedback they can get to. And a good supervisor will like to challenge their intern too. So if you're talking if you're talking to someone who's going to be managing a bonner or someone who's going to be overseeing student internship at an organization that you know that bonner students are going to, you want to tell them that these students want to be challenged and they want to be assigned to someone who's always going to be available to challenge them during the 7 weeks or 7 to 10 weeks. So some students may do extensive summer internship too. So you want them to be challenged during that entire period and not just giving them lazy work. So now we're just going to move into the stages of internship and the challenges that students have during each stage. So to start off, um, the anticipation stage, which is generally orientation and onboarding. At the beginning of the internship, student bonders may have a lot of anxiety. The what if I do this wrong? What if I can't get enough contact with my manager or the population that I'm serving? What if they're not receptive to me? So students may have a lot of what if and anxiety going into the internship. So as a staff member, where you can combat that is just checking in with them. Um, I know it may be hard for students that are doing international service abroad, they're doing international service or international internship. You want to make sure that you check in with them prior to going so that they feel comfortable in doing that too. And then another challenge that may arrive through. So the definition of specific goal and consideration of skills needed to complete established goals. So be it that you and a student might discuss their goals going into their summer service internship, but then prior to the internship, they start having a lot of anxiety and some concerns and challenges interns face seem to occur in a predictable order. So during the anticipation order, they're worried about their goals. Am I going to accomplish my goals? Am I going to learn these skills that I have written down in my community learning agreement? How will I be able to accomplish them? And then they make a lot of assumptions going into. So the first stage have a lot of these what if anxieties and there are concerns that intern will have at each stage. So at some extent, those concerns must be resolved for them to move forward. So the earlier you can you can reach out to them at the beginning of the internship to know that you're still around to support them during the summer. The more confidence that they're going to have going into the internship, knowing that someone has their back, far removed from their university or college. And then to go into the disillusionment. So they might be confused, trying to grapple with the gap between expectation for the internship and what is actually occurring. Sometimes those gaps may be small, other times it may be large, right? So what if from the previous stage has begun to what's wrong? So what am I doing wrong, or what's wrong with me that I can't connect to this population that I'm serving, or what's wrong with me that I can't um, I'm unable to connect with my manager or my coworkers, and then a way for you to combat that is just reaching out to students, asking them questions, asking them if they're hanging out with their colleagues or the employees at the organization during lunchtime, and how they're interacting with the population that they're serving, so that they can get those what if not what if, but what's wrong with me, or or am I not competent enough to go through with this internship? So you just want to continue to be supportive during this period too as well. And then midway through summer service, students start confronting a well-advanced problem that everyone have when they're new to a job or new to a surrounding. Failure to acknowledge and discuss prior can diminish their learning experience still. So they may not have encountered a problem at the beginning of their summer service, or they may have just overlooked a small problem that may have started. Say, for example, they may have been going into their summer service late because the person that they're carpooling with is not always on time, and then that become repetitive, and then the supervisor begin to know that and put them aside. So they have to confront with that problem too. So encouraging them to discuss problem ahead of time, once they recognize it, or say an employee at the organization that they're working with is not very welcoming or try to belittle them, and then they just keep ignoring that because they feel that that person is in a superior position that they cannot have that discussion with them. So they're internally confronting with those problems and being able to check in with them, having them raise those issues and be able to resolve those issues by bringing in a third party at the organization or placement may also help too. So that students cannot continue to get frozen in the moment and not enjoy that summer service experience still. So it may not be always the placement site. It may be that they're sharing an apartment or condo with some stranger that is affecting their ability to really have a positive experience during their internship. So how can they not get frozen in that moment of just not confronting those issues ahead of time, and those issues continue to linger too. So empowerment from no one can grapple with problem effectively. So just empowering those students to take on those issues head on and not wait for them to keep lingering and lingering until it's like this, until the situation get worse, can also be helpful for them too in that regard. And then the latter stage of that too is the moral high trust in themselves too. So um, let's say by week 6, week 7, going into the last week of their internship, um, they be, they become they tend to see themselves as more professional because they're getting comfortable within their position too. Students may need a good platform to demand more from themselves too. So they're getting comfortable with their workload. They see that, oh, this is smooth sailing from now on because I only have 2 weeks left. So how can you support those students to ask or demand from their supervisor more work and more challenge, um, more work in things that are really going to challenge them going all the way through that internship, and they're not settling and just being comfortable in the day-to-day work that they're doing too. Um, Combination. So student may face a variety of feelings at the end of that internship, right? They have pride in the accomplishment, but they have sadness in leaving, saying that, whoa, wow, I made it to 7 week of internship, up to through 8 weeks of internship, and then they need to address their emotions um, from leaving the organization or leaving that site placement, from dealing with certain population that we're not used to at the beginning of the internship, to now making that connection, and then they're gonna have to leave that organization too. So how can you support those students so that their transition from the internship, from working with certain population, going back to campus, transitioning coming back to campus, how can you help them out too? So those are ways that they don't feel guilty for leaving a certain population, or to just leaving their environment and going back to campus still. So we need to be cognizant of students' emotions when they're done with their internship and how best we can help them to as staff members. So in doing that, these are some recommendations that I encourage staff to consider to enhance the quality of internship as a learning experience too. So you want to pay attention to ethical and legal issues that when you're having conversation with students, doing check-ins, or at the beginning of their internship, you want to know um, whether students from their living environment to their working environment, you want to make sure that they feel comfortable in going through with their experience, so that 2 or 3 weeks into their internship, it may not just be the right placement for them, but then if you can have that conversation with students and ask them questions about some legal and ethical issues going into the internship, you can prevent not 100%, but you can try to mitigate those situations from occurring too. And explore whether the placement site is capable to host a bonner. So we know bonners are very adventurous. They love to explore. They love um, they're champions of just going into the world and attacking um, whatever problems or issues that may be facing a certain population. But you want to check, you want to double check, you want to make sure that the environment that students are going into, especially the organization, is more than capable to host that student throughout their 7 to 9 weeks of summer service. And then you also want to develop a program standard to help those students do with the placement. So you want to have certain criteria that organization that students are looking at, um, check those boxes of criteria to make sure that they fit those standards. They're able to safely host a student. They're able to make sure that the well-being of the student is paramount, and that students are not just going in and getting lost in the fold too. And you want to ensure that a summer placement site can provide quality site supervisor. Going back to how important a site supervisor is. Supervision of students through the duration of their internship by both you as a staff member and placement site supervisor is critical to a successful internship experience. So a student can be in the right environment, but if they don't have that the right supervision, or the placement site may be ideal, but there's lack of supervision over the students to really challenge them, to really guide them through that internship, that might weaken the positive experience that a student might have to. So just ensuring that the summer placement site can provide quality supervisor. I don't have to be a supervisor, but an overseer or a manager who will also be checking in on the students, because you cannot check in on every student during that summer service. That will really enhance the student learning experience over the summer. And ensure that the summer placement not just have good supervisors to oversee student placement, but as well as provide meaningful work for students to do too, so that they can really develop their soft skills, as well as some professional skills that later down the line, where they're going to graduate school, or they're going to get employed um, within in a job sector, that it can be able to deep into their experience during the summer, and talk about their experience during a job interview, or be able to take something from that summer of service, their internship, and really apply it to wherever job that they may be working at in the future too. And then some other recommendation too, basically the community learning agreement and learning content that the students that you and the students would discuss have to be agreed upon between you as a staff member, the student, and the employer too. So employer, the organization, the placement site. You want to make sure that all three of you as stakeholders are invested into the student learning experience too. And then those responsibilities are shared throughout the internship process. So from the beginning to the time the student come back on campus too, as they go through capturing their summer experience, you want to make sure that the organization that is hosting the student is part of that reflection process too. And then within capturing the summer service experience, encourage Bonner to present a summary of their experience at their placement site. So some schools do reflection groups and exit interview, but also a rating evaluation that most clearly communicate which area of intern performance need adjustment, not just from the student, but also from the organization too. So you want to have the student reflect on their experience as well as being at their organization, so that if you have a collection of data of students having bad experience at an organization, you may not encourage future students to go to that organization during the summer. And so I know it's like reflection with group can be good, but with informal or over evaluation, intern may not remember everything that supervisor says or their experience by just talking about it too. So giving them time to reflect on their internship process and having them write down a written evaluation so that you can have that documented too, to recall it at some point when another student would like to go to that organization, that could go along with too. So make sure that you collect data from interns about the effectiveness of their internship experience and the program too. So for summer student reflection, there's the Urbana meeting where you bridge in summer service experience with advocacy and awareness in campus. So you want to make sure that students can be able to connect what they're doing during the summer with their academic experience, as well as how they can take stuff from in the summer and bring that back to their primary site placement or secondary site placement during the year too. And you want to have class-based conversation. So if students from first year or junior year are all doing internship or summer service placement, when they come back to school, you want to have that class conversation of student experiences so that students can be able to talk and really reflect as a cohort, just so that other students can know that they were not alone going through certain challenges or certain issues that may have derived during their summer service too. And then you definitely want to have a one-on-one meeting too, mapping out how students can connect that summer service to the traditional service site, as well as any capstone work that they may be doing too. So these are just some of the recommendations. Since I'm basically by myself on this webinar today, we won't go to question Q&A. So I appreciate you taking your time out to watch this webinar. I hope I was able to provide some insights and as well as have you think about some questions regarding students' experience too. So if you would like to continue this conversation, you're more than welcome to go down and comment within the summer service topic session and the Bono learning community too. So we can continue that we can continue on this conversation on it too. No, I'm not an expert, but it's just this webinar, which is basically just based on some research that I did, as well as my experience as a Bonner scholar doing 3 summer of service. So that was just my little nuance on there too. So thank you for watching and have a good one.